Nobody has ever found a fossil of loneliness. No skull with sadness carved into it. No cave painting of someone sitting alone because the group stopped calling their name. No stone tool buried beside a body with a label that says, "This person felt forgotten." Loneliness almost never survives in the ground. Bones survive. Teeth survive. Weapons survive. But the feeling of being unwanted disappears with the body that carried it. And yet, loneliness may be one of the oldest feelings humans ever knew. Because for ancient humans, loneliness was not just emotional pain. It was a warning system, a biological alarm, a signal that said one terrifying thing: you are too far from the group. And for most of human history, that could get you killed. Today, loneliness can mean a silent room, a phone with no messages, a city full of people who do not know your name. But 100,000 years ago, loneliness meant something much more physical. It meant no one was close enough to hear you scream. No one was watching your back. No one would notice if you did not return. No one would share food when the hunt failed. No one would keep the fire alive while you slept. For ancient humans, the opposite of loneliness was not happiness. It was survival. So how did they deal with it? The answer is not what most people imagine. They did not deal with loneliness by becoming stronger alone. They dealt with it by making aloneness almost impossible. For most of human existence, people lived in small, mobile groups. Not cities, not towns, not houses with locked doors, camps. Temporary circles of bodies, tools, smoke, children, elders, food, fire, memory, and noise. A camp was not just a place to sleep, it was your shield, your hospital, your school, your warning system, your identity, your world. If you were hungry, someone knew. If you were sick, someone saw. If your child cried, someone heard. If you wandered too far, someone noticed. That was the first cure for loneliness. Being seen before you disappeared. Modern people think privacy is normal. But for ancient humans, privacy was rare. You slept near others, worked near others, ate near others, argued near others, grieved near others. There was almost always someone close enough to hear your breathing. That sounds uncomfortable to us, but to the ancient nervous system, it was safety. Because the human body did not evolve inside silence. It evolved inside other human beings. This is why social pain feels so physical. A rejection can tighten the chest. A loss can ruin sleep. Isolation can make the world feel dangerous, even when nothing is happening. That is not weakness. That is old programming. Your body still remembers a world where being pushed out of the group could mean death. And ancient humans knew this, even if they did not have words for it. They built their lives around the repair of connection. One of the oldest ways was touch. Before complex language, before religion, before villages, primates were already doing something powerful: grooming. One body caring for another, fingers moving through hair, skin checked, dirt removed, small wounds noticed. But grooming was never just cleaning. It was a message. I trust you. I choose you. You are safe near me. Early humans inherited that system. But humans had a problem. Their groups became more complicated. Their alliances became bigger. You could not physically groom everyone you needed to stay connected to. So humans found another way to touch without touching. They talked, not just about danger, not just about food. They talked about people. Who helped? Who lied? Who shared? Who became angry? Who could be trusted? Who needed support? This was not gossip in the useless modern sense. This was survival mapping. Every conversation updated the invisible web of the group. And inside that web, loneliness became harder to hide. If someone stopped joining, if someone went quiet, if someone sat too far from the fire, the group could notice. Not because everyone was kind. Ancient life was not a paradise. There was jealousy, conflict, violence, fear, but there was also dependency. And dependency forced people to pay attention. You could not pretend other people did not matter. Because tomorrow, your life might be in their hands. The second cure was usefulness. In the modern world, loneliness often grows when people feel unnecessary. Nobody needs your hands. Nobody waits for your story. Nobody notices if you stay in bed. But in a small ancient group, almost everyone had a role. A strong hunter mattered. But so did the person who remembered where water appeared after dry months. So did the elder who knew which plant stopped bleeding. So did the grandmother who watched children. So did the injured person who could still shape tools. So did the quiet person who listened and remembered. Being useful tied you to the group. It gave your existence weight. You were not loved only because you were pleasant. You were kept because you belonged to a living system. And sometimes the evidence for this is written directly into damaged bones. Some ancient humans survived injuries and illnesses that would have made survival impossible alone. A broken body needs help, food brought to it, protection, patience, time. Someone had to care. Someone had to decide that this person was still worth keeping alive. That is one of the most powerful answers to ancient loneliness. They cared for people who could no longer fully repay them. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough that the evidence survived in bone. That means compassion is not a modern invention. It is ancient infrastructure. Long before hospitals, there were hands carrying food. Long before therapy, there were people refusing to let someone fall out of the circle. The third cure was shared food. For hunter-gatherers, food was uncertain. Some days one person found more than they needed. Other days, they found nothing. So sharing was not just generosity. It was insurance. Today I feed you. Tomorrow you feed me. A meal was never only calories. It was proof of connection. To be handed food meant the group still recognized you. To eat beside others meant you were still inside the social body. This is why exile was so terrifying. Being alone did not only mean emotional emptiness, it meant losing access to the web that kept hunger away. Loneliness was dangerous because it could become starvation. But the deepest cure may have happened after sunset. When the sun went down, the ancient world changed. The landscape vanished. Predators moved. The cold arrived, and the fire became the center of everything. During the day, people worked, tracked animals, gathered plants, fixed tools, carried children, watched weather, but at night, something different happened. Around the fire, humans became storytellers. This was not just entertainment, it was emotional survival. A person who felt alone could hear their fear spoken through someone else's story. A child could learn that monsters had names. A grieving person could hear the dead return through memory. A rejected person could laugh with others and quietly re-enter the rhythm of the group. The fire turned loneliness into listening. It made private fear public without forcing anyone to confess. Nobody had to say, "I feel empty." They could simply sit near the flames. And the story did the work. This may be one of the oldest forms of human medicine. Not medicine for the body, medicine for belonging. A myth could tell you where you came from. A joke could prove you were still included. A song could synchronize breathing. A shared silence could say more than words. And under a sky with no artificial light, no walls, no phones, and no locked rooms, people remembered themselves through each other. But ancient humans did not only belong to the living, they belonged to the dead. A place could carry memory, a path could carry memory. A tool could carry memory, a cave wall could carry memory, and a handprint on stone is not just art, it is presence. It says, someone stood here, someone lifted their hand in the dark, someone wanted to remain, and maybe someone else stood beside them when they did it. That matters because loneliness is not only the absence of people, it is the fear that your life leaves no mark. Ancient humans fought that fear with memory, with burial, with story, with repeated rituals, with names, with objects placed near bodies, with the refusal to treat the dead as if they had never existed. A person died, but the group carried them forward. That is how grief becomes bearable, not by erasing absence, but by sharing it. A grief no one sees becomes loneliness. A grief held by the group becomes mourning, and mourning may be one of humanity's oldest answers to being alone. Still, ancient loneliness must have been brutal. Imagine losing your mate in a group of 30 people. There is nowhere to escape the absence. Their place by the fire is visible. Their tools remain. Their voice is gone from the morning. Their footsteps no longer return. Modern people can hide grief behind doors. Ancient grief lived in public, but maybe that visibility protected people. Because when everyone can see the wound, everyone knows not to let you carry it alone. That is the part we forget. Ancient humans were not less emotional than us. They were exposed to each other more completely. Their pain had fewer places to hide. Their loneliness had more chances to be interrupted. And maybe that is why modern loneliness feels so unnatural. Because today, you can survive while being socially invisible. You can order food without speaking, work behind a screen, sleep alone in a locked room, scroll through faces that do not know you exist, stay silent for days and still technically live. That would be almost impossible for most of our ancestors to understand. To them, a person's absence changed the camp. Someone had to ask where you were. Someone had to notice your missing hands, your missing voice, your missing place beside the fire. Ancient humans did not solve loneliness because they were happier than us. They solved it because they needed each other too much to pretend otherwise. Their world was harsher, darker, more dangerous, but it gave them something modern life often removes: a circle, a role, a reason to be noticed, a reason to return. So when we ask how ancient humans dealt with loneliness, the answer is simple. They stayed close. They touched. They talked. They shared food. They raised children together. They told stories in the dark. They remembered the dead. They watched for the quiet person at the edge of the fire, and when someone drifted too far, the group pulled them back before the night could take them. We like to imagine ancient humans alone in the wilderness, but maybe that is backwards. Maybe they were rarely alone in the way we are alone. They had predators, they had hunger, they had cold, they had fear, but they also had the circle. And today, most of us have the light switch, the locked door, the glowing screen, the full refrigerator, and the strange modern freedom to disappear without anyone noticing. For ancient humans, loneliness was an alarm. For us, it has become a lifestyle. And somewhere deep inside the body, older than language, older than cities, older than history, the alarm is still ringing. It is still saying the same thing it said around the first fires. Get back to the group. Do not drift beyond the circle. Stay close enough to be seen. Stay close enough to be heard. Stay close enough that when the dark comes, someone reaches for you before you vanish.